Good evening, friends. Jason here for AxodysFC, and just trying to get in another video for the sun is completely gone and it's too dark. Pretty disappointing day in a way. Got the news about midday that Perisic had injured his ACL and is basically done for the season. Some word coming out of the camp, it was just a freak practice injury, apparently, in training. Supposedly the word out of his camp is he's aiming to, train hard and rehab, so he can finish the season with us. But I think the time frame is just unrealistic. If he can get back for the Euros, I think that would be a great accomplishment for him, but the odds of getting back for us, I just don't think it's reasonable, even as good a shape as he is and how hard a worker he is fitness-wise. But certainly wish him the best and hope he can fully recover and play a few more years at least, some form, even if it's not with us, obviously. The Champions League, I said yesterday there were 3 games that I was interested in, and I tuned in for part of all of them, but really, I didn't I didn't particularly enjoy any of them. The Galatasaray one was actually annoying to me for a completely unrelated reason, just a fantasy football. I've been beta testing Sorare's Rivals fantasy thing, which is kind of a game by game fantasy thing where you pick players from both teams and then 5 players from between them. And anyway, the problem was Copenhagen, their opponent, none of their players were an option, and so you were playing with half of the available players. Based on how good the players are, they have a certain cost, right? And too many of Galatasaray's players had a high value cost, so it was impossible to field. Plus, they just didn't have players available that were actually playing in the game. So it was impossible to assemble any kind of a full team of 5. And so anyway, I lost horribly in all my matchups in that one. So that annoyed me. That's beta software for you. That's, it is what it is, I understand, but it just annoyed me. And so I didn't end up watching, but that ended up being 2-2. Copenhagen basically had control early, and then Galatasaray came back. And so then I was watching a little bit of Bayern and United. I figured Bayern would, dominate. And interestingly, they did kind of early. But then it ended up that United scored a couple late goals, good goals in a way. And even though they were never in the game, really, it ends up being 4-3. Such a weird game, and they're so out of sorts. But Harry Kane, another goal and assist. That's five goals in 5 games or something like that. Exactly what I would expect him to be able to do in a team like that. And then Arsenal and PSV, and I watched that a little bit, and that one also annoyed me from a fantasy perspective a lot too, for a similar reason, in terms of, so it was fascinating that Raya did get the start, and that's a whole story in itself, I think. But the annoyance was because he's a loanee, he wasn't available to pick, and I wanted to pick either strategically. I wanted to pick either Ramsdale or Raya, depending on who was available. I was surprised, like most people probably, that Ramsdale didn't get the start after not getting the start Sunday. But so anyway, I ended up going with the PSV keeper because he had a fairly good value, etc. And then I went with the PSV defender because I wanted to pair him. Kind of, they call it stacking. Anyway, PSV, played terribly, got dominated by Arsenal, who played great. And so, yeah, total terrible series of. I played Erdegaard, and everybody else was crap that I picked from PSV. So, yeah, frustrating. And where I probably would have played almost entirely Arsenal, if not for the weird keeper scenario where I couldn't pick the Arsenal keeper because he was a loanee, so rare, hadn't fully. There have been multiple instances where I've seen players that should be available to pick aren't available to pick. But the doubly annoying thing is, my one game that counts for what they call the arena for your kind of your reputation ranking or whatever. My opponent was able to play Raya because he owned like last year's Brentford card or something like that. And if you own the card, the app recognizes that and allows you to, which is such a huge advantage over people, that don't own the cards and just have to get what's made available to them, which should be all the cards, to be honest. But anyway, yeah. So that's beta software for you. And so unfortunately, I was playing way more games of that one, and I think I went like 0-10 or something, or 8-2 maybe. Which the only saving grace is because there were, a couple people that didn't pick any, they had still had Ramsdale picked. And so, when you have a dead player in your 5, it kills your scores, essentially. So, yeah, so Ramsdale and Raya. All signs now are pointing to, even though Arteta is saying whatever, to me, I think it's pretty clear Raya is playing better. He looks better. He is probably the number one keeper now. And sorry, Ramsdale, you're out of luck. And if that's not actually the case, and so then, for North London Derby, he plays Ramsdale, I don't know. I can't see him playing Ramsdale. I think Raya's look good. And yeah, and so anyway, there's a whole crazy dynamic that if Raya looks good and he plays him then, and he has a great game, then Ramsdale's locked out probably for a long time, maybe the rest of the season until like Carabao Cup or the cup games essentially. Then yeah, I could see him getting some game time and Raya getting a break for those games. So anyway, but on the flip side, if we shall, whoever the keeper that is picked, if like Ramsdale is picked for the game, I think the bottom line is we need to score a lot of points, and hopefully make their keeper look bad, and then they have a big quandary and they doubt what they're doing actually. So that's my hope is it can be, I'm not expecting us to win or whatever. I think that's unrealistic. They're playing really well. We're playing well, but they're ahead of us in the development of their squad. And my hope is we can get a draw. It's on the road. We never do well there historically. There's no expectation that we should win. I'd like to get a draw. I'd like to put some points on the board and make them wonder if they should be playing the keeper that they chose to play against us. That's my hope. But who knows? Who knows how it'll play out? Anyway, kind of an interesting day, and I'm trying to think, are there any, I'll have to look at my schedule if there's any Europa League games that I even care about tomorrow. Yeah, looking forward to the game this weekend. I need to figure out what my viewing plan is, because it will probably be on USA, which is hard for me to watch. I've got Peacock, but I don't have direct access to USA, although I might be able to get it through my in-laws. Otherwise, yes, there are streams that I can find, etc., but they're never the same quality. They flake out, a million ads. Not an optimal scenario. So anyway, gonna have to figure out my plan in that regard. But in the meantime, it's getting dark. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the likes and comments. And please subscribe if you enjoy these. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. So remember, to dare is to do.